I found out I'm dating my distant cousin, and we're still together. The text from my dad came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Call me when you get a chance. Found something interesting about Tyler. I stared at my phone, my stomach doing a weird flip. My dad had been working on genealogy research for the past month, ever since I'd casually mentioned that my boyfriend Tyler and I were getting serious and thinking about moving in together. My name is Sophie, I'm 27 years old, and I just discovered that the man I'm in love with is technically my cousin. Distant cousin. Very distant. But still. Let me back up. I met Tyler 15 months ago on a dating app. One of those ones where you swipe through profiles and occasionally match with someone who seems normal enough to risk meeting for coffee. Tyler's profile was simple, a few photos, a bio that mentioned he was an architect who liked hiking and terrible sci-fi movies. We matched, started talking, and had immediate chemistry. Our first date was supposed to be coffee. We ended up talking for 4 hours at the cafe, then walking around the city for another 2, then having dinner because neither of us wanted the day to end. By the time we said goodbye, I knew this was different. We're from different cities. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and Tyler grew up in Sacramento, California, about 600 miles apart. Our families had no overlap, no shared connections, nothing that would suggest our lives had ever intersected before that dating app algorithm put his face on my screen. Or so I thought. My dad, Richard, is a retired history teacher who discovered genealogy research about 5 years ago and became completely obsessed. He subscribes to every ancestry website, spends hours in archives, and has traced our family tree back to the 1400s in some branches. It's his retirement hobby, and honestly, it makes him happy, so the whole family just smiles and nods when he starts talking about great-great-great-great-grandparents. When Tyler and I hit the 1-year mark and started talking seriously about our future, I mentioned it to my parents over Sunday dinner. Just casual conversation. Tyler and I are thinking about getting a place together, maybe looking at apartments next month. My mom was excited, asking about neighborhoods and whether we wanted help furniture shopping. My dad smiled and said, "That's wonderful, honey. What's Tyler's last name again?" "Castellano," I said. "Why?" "Just curious. I like to know these things." I didn't think anything of it. My dad asks everyone's last name. He's always looking for potential genealogical connections, even with my friends' parents. It's just what he does. I forgot about the conversation entirely until 3 weeks later when I got that late-night text. I called him the next morning on my way to work. "Hey, Dad, what's up? You said you found something about Tyler?" "Oh." He sounded delighted, which immediately made me nervous. "Yes. Very interesting discovery. Are you free to stop by the house today? I want to show you something." "I'm at work until 6. Can you just tell me over the phone?" "I'd rather show you in person. It's a bit complicated and I have charts." Of course he had charts. I stopped by my parents' house after work, still completely clueless about what was coming. Dad was in his study, aka the room where he keeps all his genealogy stuff, with papers spread across every surface. Come in, come in." He was practically bouncing. "You're going to love this." "Love what?" "You're being very mysterious." He gestured to his desk, where he'd laid out what looked like a family tree diagram. Hand-drawn, with hundreds of names in his meticulous handwriting, lines connecting generations. "So," he began, clearly savoring this moment, "after you mentioned Tyler, I got curious. Castellano isn't a super common name, and I had a hunch. So, I did some digging." "Dad, you didn't need to do a background check on my boyfriend." "It's not a background check. It's genealogy. Very different." He pointed to the chart. "This is your family tree, going back through your maternal grandmother's line. See? Here you are. And here's your grandmother, Elizabeth, and her mother, Catherine, and so on." I nodded, having seen versions of this chart my entire life. "And this," he pointed to a different section of the chart, "is Tyler's family tree." I was able to trace his maternal line back quite far. The Castellanos are well documented in California records. "Okay. And here," he pointed to a name in the middle of the chart, a spot where 2 lines converged, "is where it gets interesting." I leaned in to look. The name was Johannes Alderman, 1580 to 1643.
Who's that?
My dad's smile got bigger. That, my dear, is your and Tyler's common ancestor. My brain short-circuited. What? You heard me. You and Tyler share a common ancestor. He was laughing now, clearly finding this hilarious. Johannes Alderman, born in 1580 in Germany, emigrated to New Amsterdam, what's now New York, in 1620. He had 8 children. One line eventually became your grandmother's family, and another line eventually became Tyler's great-great-grandmother's family.
I stared at the chart.
At the tangle of lines and names spanning 4 centuries. At my name and Tyler's name, connected through a man who died 380 years ago. So, Tyler and I are related. Technically, yes. Let me calculate, 9th cousins? 10th? Somewhere in that range. You share about 0.001% of your DNA, if that. We're cousins. Very, very distant cousins. It's really not a genetic concern at all. But yes, technically, you share an ancestor. He was still grinning like this was the best news ever. Isn't that fascinating? I sat down heavily in his desk chair. I'm dating my cousin. Oh, don't be dramatic. If we go back far enough, everyone is related to everyone. This just happens to be documented. He pulled out another paper. Look, I've traced the whole line. Johannes Alderman had a son, Peter, born 1615. Peter had a daughter, Sarah, born 1650. Sarah married a man named William Cooper, and their line eventually. Dad. I held up my hand. I appreciate the research, but I need a minute to process the fact that my boyfriend is my 9th cousin.
10th.
Maybe. I'm still working out the exact count. I drove home in a daze. The rational part of my brain knew this wasn't actually a problem. 9th cousins share virtually no DNA. It's so distant, it's basically meaningless genetically. But the emotional part of my brain was screaming, you're related to your boyfriend. Tyler was at my apartment when I got home, making dinner and humming along to music. Normal. Everything was completely normal except for the fact that we apparently shared a great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparent. Hey. He kissed my cheek. How was your day?
Weird.
Very weird. Weird how? I took a breath. So, you know how my dad does genealogy research? Yeah, the family tree stuff.
Right.
Well, he's been researching your family tree. Without you knowing. Because that's what he does. I was stalling. And he found something. Tyler turned down the stove and gave me his full attention. Found what? We're related. He blinked. What? You and me. We're related. Distant cousins. We share an ancestor from the 1600s. Tyler stared at me for a long moment. Then, are you serious? Dead serious. My dad has charts and everything. A whole documented line back to some guy named Johannes Alderman who lived 400 years ago. We're cousins. 9th cousins. Or 10th. My dad's still calculating. Tyler sat down at the kitchen table, looking slightly shell-shocked. How is that even possible? We're from different cities. Different families. Apparently this Johannes guy had 8 kids and they scattered all over the country, and eventually one branch became my family and another branch became yours. That's insane. I know. We sat in silence for a minute. Then Tyler started laughing. Not nervous laughter, genuine, can't help it laughter. What's funny? I asked. We're related. I'm dating my cousin. This is like a bad rom-com plot. His laughter was contagious. Soon I was laughing too, and we were both sitting at the kitchen table cracking up over the sheer absurdity of it. Should we be worried? Tyler asked when we'd calmed down. Like, genetically? I already Googled it in the car. 9th cousins share like 0.001% of DNA. It's completely safe. Legally, socially, genetically, all fine. But we're still technically related. Technically. That's wild. He shook his head. What are the odds? Of all the people on a dating app, I match with my 9th cousin? My dad calculated the odds. He has a whole spreadsheet. I didn't understand most of it. Tyler laughed again. Your dad must be thrilled. This is like his dream scenario, genealogy research proving relevant to real life. He was delighted. Found it hilarious. Are you okay with this? Tyler asked, suddenly serious. Like, does it bother you? I thought about it. Did it bother me? It was definitely weird. Definitely not something I'd expected to discover about my relationship. But Tyler was still Tyler, the same person I'd fallen in love with over the past 15 months. A shared ancestor from 400 years ago didn't change who he was or how I felt about him. Honestly, it's weird, but I think it's also kind of funny. In a cosmic, what are the chances way? I mean, it's not like we're first cousins or something actually concerning.
Exactly.
Genetically, we're basically strangers. We just happen to have a common great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparent. That's a lot of greats. 9 of them, according to my dad. Tyler grinned. So, should I start calling you cousin? I threw a dish towel at him. Absolutely not. We decided not to make a big deal about it. It was a fun fact, a bizarre coincidence, but not something that changed our relationship. We were still us. But we also agreed. We weren't telling people. Or, at least, we weren't actively broadcasting it. My immediate family knew because my dad had shared his discovery with my mom and my brother, all of whom found it hilarious. But we weren't putting it on social media or announcing it at parties. If someone asks how we met, we're not adding, and then we discovered we're distant cousins, Tyler said. Agreed. That's a weird conversation starter. A few weeks later, we were having dinner with Tyler's parents. They were lovely people who I'd met a few times before. Tyler's mom, Angela, asked how things were going with us, whether we were still thinking about moving in together. Actually, Tyler said, we found an apartment. We're signing the lease next week. That's wonderful. Angela was genuinely happy. Richard must be thrilled too. Richard? I asked, confused. Your dad. He is so happy you two found each other, right?
Oh.
Yes. Very happy. Tyler shot me a look. I could tell he was thinking the same thing I was. His mom had no idea about the genealogy discovery, and we needed to keep it that way. Later, in the car, Tyler said, we're never telling my parents. Never. Never ever. My mom would make it weird. She'd tell everyone. It would become the family story. Did you hear Tyler is dating his cousin? Distant cousin. Doesn't matter. She'd make it a thing. Fair enough. Your family, your call. The apartment hunt and move kept us busy for the next few months, and the whole related thing faded into the background. It was just part of our story now, a weird footnote, something we'd occasionally laugh about but mostly forgot about day to day. Until my brother's wedding. My brother David got married 6 months after the genealogy discovery. It was a big family affair, both sides of our family, all the relatives, the whole deal. At the rehearsal dinner, my dad had a few drinks and decided to share fun family history facts. Did you know, he announced to the table, wine glass in hand, that Sophie and Tyler are related? I froze. Tyler went pale. My cousin Emma laughed. What? It's true. Dad pulled out his phone, because of course he had the charts saved on his phone. Let me show you the family tree. They share a common ancestor from the 1600s. 9th cousins. Dad, I said urgently. Maybe this isn't. It's fascinating. The odds of them meeting randomly on a dating app when they're actually distantly related? Astronomical. I've been calculating the probabilities. They're cousins. My grandmother looked scandalized. Very distant cousins, Mom. My mother jumped in. Genetically meaningless. But still cousins. It's really not a big deal. I tried to explain. It's so distant it doesn't matter. How distant? My uncle asked. Dad started explaining the entire family tree, showing anyone who would look at his phone. The table divided into 2 camps, people who thought it was hilarious and people who thought it was vaguely scandalous. Tyler leaned over and whispered, I'm never going to live this down, am I? Nope. This is your life now. Cousin husband. We're not married yet.
Yet.
But when we are, this will definitely be mentioned in someone's speech. He groaned. And I was right. At our wedding 2 years later. Yes, we got married because a shared ancestor from the 1600s isn't actually a relationship deal breaker. My dad absolutely mentioned it in his father of the bride speech. When Sophie first told me about Tyler, I did what any protective father would do. I researched him. And I discovered something remarkable. Tyler and Sophie share an ancestor from 1620. They're ninth cousins, which genetically means nothing but historically is fascinating. Some people might say it's fate. I say it's just good record-keeping. The reception erupted in laughter. Tyler buried his face in his hands. I laughed until I cried. Tyler's parents were in the audience. They'd finally learned about the cousin connection about a year into our relationship when Tyler's sister found out and told the whole family. Angela had indeed made it a thing, telling everyone with a caveat, but it's very distant, barely counts. After the wedding, someone asked Tyler if it bothered him that we were technically related. Honestly, Tyler said, at this point, it's just part of our story. We met on a dating app, fell in love, and then discovered we're extremely distant cousins. It's weird, but it's our weird. And that's exactly how I feel about it. We're currently expecting our first child, a daughter, due in 3 months. My dad has already started working on her family tree, which I'm sure will be thoroughly documented back to the 1400s before she's even born. Think about it, Tyler said recently, looking at the ultrasound photo. Our daughter will have a family tree where both branches eventually meet up at Johannes Alderman. That's one way to put it. Your dad's going to love explaining that to her when she's older. He absolutely will. He'll have charts. Of course he will. Do I think it's weird that Tyler and I are technically related? Sometimes. Do I care? Not really. We're so distantly related that it's basically a fun fact, a party story, something to laugh about when people ask how we met. We met on a dating app, I say. Fell in love. Then found out we're ninth cousins. The reactions are always entertaining. Some people think it's romantic. It's fate. Others think it's weird. But you're related. Most people just laugh and say some version of, what are the odds? My dad calculated the actual odds once. Something like 1 in 50 million, given the population sizes, geographic distance, and the specificity of our shared lineage. Those are pretty good odds for winning the lottery. Or for finding your ninth cousin on a dating app and deciding they're the person you want to spend your life with. Johannes Alderman, born 1580 in Germany, died 1643 in New Amsterdam, probably never imagined that 400 years later, 2 of his descendants would meet via cell phone technology and fall in love. But here we are, still together, still laughing about it, still very occasionally joking about being each other's favorite cousin. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. Except maybe I'd have asked my dad not to research Tyler's family tree quite so thoroughly. But knowing my dad, he would have done it anyway. Because that's just what genealogists do. Even when it results in discovering your daughter is dating her ninth cousin. TLDR. Met my boyfriend on a dating app. 1 year later, my genealogist father researched his family tree and discovered we're ninth cousins who share an ancestor from the 1600s. We thought it was hilarious, stayed together, and are now married with a baby on the way. Tyler still refuses to tell most of his family, but my dad mentions it at every possible opportunity. Turns out love really does run in the family very, very distantly.